Welcome back to your one-stop destination for captivating recaps. If you're new to the channel, congratulations. You're in for a treat. Today, we're diving into another thrilling recap. So, grab your popcorn, sit back, and get ready to be mesmerized.
The movie is about a lazy middle school teacher who hates her job, her students, and her co-workers. She is forced to return to teaching to make enough money for breast implants after her wealthy fiancé dumps her. So, without further ado, let's find out what unethical means the bad teacher uses to achieve her goals. The movie begins as a bunch of teachers are celebrating the end of another school year. One of their faculty members, Elizabeth Halsey, is leaving because she's getting married soon. They tell her that they will always consider her a part of the school and give her a $40 gift card as a goodbye present. Elizabeth is then asked to give a goodbye speech. She begins by saying that she's going to miss her students the most. It doesn't seem like it, though. A flashback shows how she avoided interacting with or helping her student. She then reveals how she would have loved to know more about her colleagues. Yet, another flashback reveals how she turned away from the birthday celebration of a colleague. Her excuse is that between 4 classes and a wedding to plan, she just didn't have enough time. Her speech ends with her claiming that she doesn't need a blackboard or a classroom to set an example. Moments later, she carelessly pulls her car out of the parking lot while smoking marijuana and almost crashes into the school bus. Just as she drives off, she yells, "Adios, bitches!" Elizabeth returns home and tells her rich fiancé Mark that they are going to have sex, without realizing that his mother is there as well. Mark tells Elizabeth that she has spent around $16,000 in the last month. So, while Mark is trying to talk to her about it, his mother keeps interrupting, saying that she knows Elizabeth is a gold digger. Elizabeth denies all accusations, but to prove that she's right, Mark's mother asks her when Mark's birthday is, which leaves Elizabeth speechless. Upon finding out that his birthday is today, she hands him the gift card she got from the school as his birthday present. But Mark has seen her true colors by now and calls off the engagement. In an attempt to convince Mark, she lies to him, saying that she's pregnant. But Mark doesn't believe her. Fast forward to 3 months. Elizabeth is back at school, but this time without Mark's expensive car. As she is passing by the corridor, she looks at the goofy pictures of the faculty members and notices that her picture is missing. A teacher named Amy sees her walking by and initiates a conversation. She tells Elizabeth how sad she is because her relationship ended. Elizabeth lies to her that she caught Mark cheating on her with another man. So, while Amy feels sorry for Elizabeth, she continues the conversation by taunting Elizabeth about how she went through last year by doing the bare minimum, which will be unacceptable this year. Later, Elizabeth is sitting in the classroom looking at a magazine encircling pictures of women with big breasts. That's when a fellow teacher, Lynn, shows up and invites Elizabeth for lunch. At lunch, Elizabeth talks about how she's looking to settle down with a guy who's gonna take care of her. Lynn agrees with her until she reveals that she's gonna get breast implants to make that possible, since it's hard to compete with Barbie types. That night, Elizabeth is on her hunt to find an eligible bachelor when she meets a rich guy at a bar who offers to take her on his boat. Elizabeth figures out that he's married and starts flirting with his associate instead. During the makeout session, Elizabeth finds out that he's just an associate who's looking to become an occupational therapist after his training ends. Elizabeth gets annoyed and tells him there's no way she's ever gonna marry an occupational therapist. She then continues seeking rich men. The new school year starts the next day, so while all the other teachers are hyped about it, Elizabeth shows up to class with a terrible hangover and puts on a movie for the students to watch while she takes a nap. At lunch, Elizabeth meets Russell, the gym teacher, who asks her out on a date. But since Russell is not a wealthy man, she blows him off by saying that she doesn't date coworkers. Moments later, Amy shows up to criticize Elizabeth for showing a movie on the first day of school. Elizabeth takes offense and leaves. Later, Elizabeth notices an attractive man in the corridor. The man is named Scott Delacourt, who's been hired as a new substitute teacher. Seeing him wearing an expensive watch, Elizabeth turns on her charm and starts flirting with him. Scott tells Elizabeth that his grandfather designed the watch and that it's their family business. To find out more about Scott, Elizabeth asks him if he's moved to town with his family. Turns out, Scott is single. It's been over a year since he broke up with his girlfriend Catherine, but still has her picture as his wallpaper. He proceeds to show Elizabeth her picture, but the only thing that Elizabeth focuses on is her big breasts. The very next day, Elizabeth visits a clinic where she can get silicone implants. But, to her surprise, it's going to cost $9,300. Elizabeth calls several different people, including Mark, to get some money, but no one is willing to give her a penny. She then gets drunk with her roommate, who tells her that he's short on rent this month. After class, Elizabeth finds out about a car wash show that raised around $6,000 last year. Seeing this as an opportunity to raise some cash, Elizabeth somehow manages to convince the principal to allow her to supervise the show, and he agrees. The next day, Elizabeth shows up wearing suggestive attire and starts washing cars in the most provocative way. Soon, Scott arrives, and Elizabeth asks him out for drinks. Scott politely declines, saying he's not ready yet. Later, while Elizabeth is busy counting the money, Amy passes by and sees her taking some of the cash. She then tells the principal about Elizabeth embezzling money, but he's reluctant to believe her and asks her to get some tips from Elizabeth since the show was a success and they made around $7,000. In class, Elizabeth is about to play yet another movie for the students when she finds out about the pretest for the state's standardized test. She reads a memo and gives the students 45 minutes to solve it. During lunchtime, Elizabeth and Lynn are busy chatting when Scott comes by. Immediately, Elizabeth sends Lynn away to get some time alone with him, but suddenly, Amy shows up and intentionally blurts out the fact that Elizabeth wants breast implants to embarrass her in front of Scott. The scene changes to a parent-teacher meeting where some parents are concerned about Elizabeth's method of teaching with movies. Elizabeth argues that the school hired her because she's good at what she does and that she uses movies as an effective multimedia tool. She then dismisses the meeting, but before she can leave, a father approaches her and offers her some cash to pay extra attention to his son Morgan. This gives Elizabeth an idea to convince more parents to give her money, and she'll give private tutoring classes. She then uses several other ways to generate cash and puts it in a jar labeled New Tits. Meanwhile, Amy gives Scott a book named Eat, Pray, Love and tells him that it's her favorite book. The two of them share a moment while Elizabeth is busy smoking pot. Later, at the school ball, Russell hits on Elizabeth once again, but she ignores him and starts dancing obnoxiously with Scott. Next, Scott pulls Elizabeth into the corridor and confesses that he's interested in Amy. Jealous, Elizabeth tells him that Amy is a lesbian and she's using him for his money. Upon returning back, Elizabeth goes up to Russell and tells him that they should get high, while also convincing Lynn to join. Once Lynn leaves, the two of them get cozy and spend their time in the gym room. Soon, it's Christmas, and one of Elizabeth's students invites her to his house for dinner. She has no interest in anything but the food. Later, she gives the boys some bad advice and leaves. Once the Christmas break is over, the teaching staff goes to watch a Period 5 play where Scott's band is playing. Elizabeth gets annoyed when Scott plays a song for Amy and leaves with Lynn. During the car ride, Lynn reveals that the teacher with the greatest state exam results would get a bonus of $5,700. So, to win the bonus, Elizabeth improves her teaching methods. However, seeing Elizabeth's efforts, Amy feels a little insecure and coerces the student into telling her that Elizabeth smokes marijuana in the class. She takes the matter up to the principal, but he believes that with little to no evidence, there's nothing he can do about it. On the other hand, Elizabeth is regularly assigning homework and taking quizzes, but the students are still not prepared enough. Frustrated, Elizabeth impersonates a journalist and meets Carl Hollaby, a state official in charge of preparing and distributing the examinations, to discuss racial bias on the standardized tests. Elizabeth then gets Carl intoxicated and lures him to have sex with her in his office, but she drugs his drink and grabs a copy of the answers. Once the results come out, everyone's shocked to discover that Elizabeth's class aced the test and she receives the bonus. Amy is skeptical about Elizabeth, but half-heartedly congratulates her. Elizabeth then hears about a field that Amy and Scott would be supervising, and after she books an appointment at the clinic, she spreads poison ivy on an apple and leaves it on Amy's desk. Turns out, Amy gets blisters on her face and is unable to go. So, while Amy is busy finding evidence against Elizabeth, she seduces Scott throughout the trip. Back in school, Amy swaps her desk with Elizabeth's to fool the janitor into opening the drawers. Amy then finds Elizabeth's journalist disguise along with the practice test, which makes her believe that Elizabeth cheated on the state exam. Amy somehow manages to convince Carl to testify against her. On the other hand, Elizabeth and Scott end up dry humping, and Elizabeth makes sure to record all that and send it to Amy. But soon, Elizabeth realizes that Scott is extremely boring. Later, a student named Garrett is mocked by his classmates for loudly claiming his unrequited love for a classmate named Chase. Elizabeth soothes him by telling him how Chase is superficial and her priorities are different. Elizabeth pauses for a second to think about her own superficial ways before she hands Garrett her bra and tells everyone that she caught him with a girl just so they won't make fun of him anymore. Russell notices Elizabeth not wearing a bra and appreciates her gesture when Amy shows up all of a sudden and accuses Elizabeth for cheating on the state test and sleeping with Scott. Elizabeth tells her roommate Kirk to pay a visit to Carl and, using his inappropriate pictures, blackmail him into saying that she's innocent. After Elizabeth is found innocent of the cheating accusation, Amy accuses Elizabeth of drug usage on the basis of a tip from a student. When the cops come and search the school with their sniffer dog, they discover Elizabeth's small liquor bottles and marijuana in Amy's classroom, hidden in a secret compartment in Amy's desk since she forgot to switch the desks back. Amy is taken away by the police before she gets transferred to another school. Later, Scott wants to start again with Elizabeth, but she rejects him and goes over to see Russell. Turns out, the two have a lot in common. The movie ends with Elizabeth deciding not to get the breast implants and starting a new job as a guidance counselor at the school.
Subscribe for more videos like this. Leave us a like to help us out, and comment your thoughts on the video. Stay awesome.